Do you want?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. On yesterday, we mainly did a Q&A, and we did a backed up a little bit, and Pastor went over again because of the questions of the difference in being complete and whole and healing. And so first, we'll start there and see if we have any questions about what we talked about yesterday, because it went in, so a broad uh, space because of all the questions we had and gaining understanding. So we'll start there, but also, as we usually do you have questions about anything? Now would be your time for questions and or comments.
Ron, this is Vermel. Could you go over briefly the difference between healing and wholeness? Am I correct in that wholeness cannot happen without healing? That's what I want to ask.
That is a correct assumption, but I'm going to let Pastor, because he went into that, I think, beautifully yesterday, and if he doesn't mind, let him address that. But you are right. You are on the right track.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, you are correct. Healing speaks to the idea of being delivered from something. And the deliverance does not have to be from pain or sickness in your body. It can be pain, it could be sickness in your mind or a broken heart. And wholeness speaks to the idea of creating space to receive something. And the space that is created is to receive from the spiritual realm, or to receive from our Creator. However, you don't have to receive after you're healed from the Creator. You don't have to receive it if you don't want to. Like the 9 who did not become whole, they were healed. But the space was created for them to become whole. They went to the priest, and they filled that space that was there for wholeness with what they had left behind, religion. But the one filled that space with the presence and teachings of Jesus, which are teachings from our Creator. Does that help you?
It does. I want to ask a question more personal in my face. So, I was healed from my heart attack, and I was given the opportunity, a space was created for me to...
I understand what you're asking.
Yes.
I understand what you're asking.
Okay.
When you were healed from your heart attack, there was a space created. And the space that was created there was not filled with what it was there to be filled with. There were portions of it. In other words, since you have brought it up, it's about your trust in everything that you are receiving. And what happened is, the last time you were in the hospital, that space was filled. You became whole. And the wholeness came as a result of what you experienced during the time of the illness. And that is the reason when you came out of the hospital the last time, you felt different than you did the first time that you were in the hospital, even though the first time was a bit more dangerous than the second time. And by your admission, you felt different, but you could not explain the difference that you were experiencing the second time that you came out, which means that you have made yourself available to be filled, and that space now is hungry for understanding of what you are filled with. Does that help you?
It does. And that brings me to my third part of the question there. The feeling is continual, right? Because this is a continual growth. This is a continual understanding, right?
Yes. The initial thing that you experience is what we are labeling as a feeling, right?
Right.
Initially, it was extremely strong, and that's why you recognize it. It will not be that strong all the time.
Okay.
It is there all the time, just like your breath is there all the time.
Okay.
And if you begin to move in a different direction than you should be, you will feel a difference. You will experience a difference. And the difference of which I speak is that you will question yourself, why did I do that? Or should I be doing this? Or you will know that you should not be doing or saying whatever it is that you are, that's in your mind at that time. That experience of being filled is always there, even though the power or the depth of experience that you had at the time of being filled was letting you know that space is filled. And the reason you didn't know is because we have not been taught about these types of experiences, and that's why you could not, you did not know what was happening with you, if that makes any sense.
It does. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Well, just to follow up on that, she was talking about that space. How much does your desire and your anticipation to where you are have to do with what is filled in that space, or how fast it's filled, and what you see there?
The depth of your desire determines how quickly you feel. If you are half-heartedly still engaged with religion, it is much more difficult to be filled, if not, well, it's improbable that you will be, if not impossible. Why do I say that? Because Jesus clearly taught us you cannot love two masters, because you will love one and hate the other. There is no way that you can know what spirituality is and mix it with religion and have an expectation to get clarity about the things that you are seeking that are spiritual. And the reason I say that is because the religious teachings will always question the spirituality of what you are hearing. And as long as we have been teaching, and as long as you have been receiving, you should be at a place now where the religion does not question the spirituality, not because we are teaching, not because of who we are, but more so because when you hear, when you have that desire, when you understand the spirituality, it resonates with you. Now, if it resonates with you and you don't live according to it, you don't speak according to it, you will be reminded. So, again, feeling comes based upon the depth of your desire. And the depth of your desire is determined by how much credence you give to what you are learning about spirituality. Does that help, Ron?
Yes, sir.
Anyone else or anyone want to comment on that or add to that a question? Oh, if not, okay, Ron.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I invite you to turn to Mark chapter 1. A couple verses we're going to look at here. And just to tell you how I arrived at this, is as I mentioned to you the other day, I'm kind of in a search, and I have to tell you I love this sort of thing. I anticipate that there's something here more to see I don't see yet. And so what that something is Jesus does a lot of healing. And as Pastor mentioned yesterday, the one with the issue of blood, telling people that you've been made whole, you're complete now. So my quest is to find out what all that means, was because nothing is haphazardly done, or as we kind of go from one book to the next, we don't always see that there may be the rationale behind it, or the spiritual meaning probably more accurately. So that's what I'm considering. And it may not be until next year this time that we see it, but just something that interests me. This is the scripture that speaks of Jesus healing Peter's mother-in-law, and it is in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and I chose Mark because I thought it gave a bit more detail. Okay, so that's why we're at here at this place right now. How we got here. Okay, so I'm going to read it and then start talking, and I'm going to probably show you what I see, and this has me excited as well, because I think I see as much as I don't see, and that's okay. You know, we'll talk it out and see if we can unravel what is in the dark to us here, at least to me. Okay. I'm going to start at verse 29. I'm in Mark chapter 1, starting verse 29 through 31. And immediately after they had come out of the synagogue, and they came into the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Now Simon's mother-in-law was lying sick with a fever, and immediately they spoke to him about her. He came to her and raised her up, taking her by the hand, and the fever left her, and she waited on them. This has always fascinated me. It fascinated me because I've always wondered why mother-in-law. Why not his wife? Why not his mother? Or why mother-in-law? So I knew that it had something more that it's trying to say, stronger than the words that were on the page. But I didn't know what it meant, and I think I got a glimpse of it now. So let's talk it out and see what we see here. First of all, I want to talk about the synagogue. The synagogue and the house of Simon have something in common. The synagogue and the house of Simon has something in common here. And that's the key to this whole thing, to look at this, what takes place. And because of that, if we see that, I think it also speaks to why the mother-in-law. Now, in these times, especially, most people did not have a job. They didn't have trades like you. You know, Jesus' father was a carpenter, so he had a trade. But most of these people were farmers, or they were laborers who worked for other people. And you would find maybe several generations living under one roof, depending on the means of what they had. So it would not be uncommon for his mother-in-law to be in the house with him. That's not the issue here. But let's look at this a little further, because I mentioned to you, I think the key to this is seeing the synagogue. And I apologize about the sirens, because I've been hearing them this afternoon. So if you hear one, it is on my end, okay? And I apologize for that. If you look at the gathering places for the Jewish people, going back to the Old Testament when they left Egypt, this is a symbol of their relationship with the Creator. So it started with when they first came out, that God followed them in a cloud, and they saw the presence of God continuously with them. And then it went to a tabernacle or a tent. And again, that was the presence of God with them. And what that also says is those things at the time were sanctioned by God. In other words, this is a symbol of the agreement between God and the people. This is your visualization of who I am. So not who I am, but that my presence with you, my presence with you, along with Moses at the time, because Moses was also that symbol. And then it comes to when they reach the promised land, or it is David who first says, I live in a beautiful place. I want to build a house for God. So God uses one of David's friends, one of his servants, to go back and tell him that he will not allow him to build it, but it will be his son Solomon. So Solomon builds the first temple. And again, it is sanctioned by God. So you have these, these buildings that were erected, and again, God, they're symbolic of God's presence with the people, and the whole time it is supposedly, quote unquote, a house for God. Okay? Now, because of disobedience, they go into exile. And because when they go into exile, they're scattered abroad, and they're scattered all, So it was during these times that people decide, we want to meet together. We want to study the scriptures. We want a place that we can gather. So that was the start of the synagogues when they come out of exile, or while they're in exile, and you can go back and look at the books of Ezra and Ezekiel and some of the others. But that's what started the synagogue. The funny thing with the synagogues, though, man built the synagogues without confronting or consulting God. As I mentioned, the other ones, before they go into it, when you're looking at the tabernacle and you're looking at the temple, that was they experienced the Creator while doing that. So these buildings, if you will, these gathering places, are symbolic of man's experience with the Creator. The synagogue was not. The synagogue came about because they had a desire to gather and to pray and to read the scriptures. So here we are now in Jesus' time, because he honored this as well. He honored this as well, and the funny thing about this is you look at this and you see that the temple was still erect, but the synagogues were in place as well, because what they did, instead of people traveling to Jerusalem all the time, whenever you had a place of, no matter how big the town was, if it was enough people and they had the money, they would build a synagogue. The synagogues had something in common. One, they were, if possible, erected on the highest point in town, on the highest hill, a place in town. And the inner parts of it were also, there was some uniformity to it as to the layout of it and how it was put together. But the difference is, in these times, no matter how sincere they were in their wish to pray and to read the scriptures, they did not have an intimacy with God, and neither did the priest. It was evident because the priest, in the older days, when I mentioned to you the tabernacle and the temple, the priest would have a intimate relationship with the people. He was a part of the community. He mingled with the people. He knew what was going on. But when it got to as time went on and they get to these synagogues, it is not community. They became more standoffish. They became more guarded of what was in the scriptures and more of we'll interpret it for you. It became more, if you will, enforcing of the law more than showing love and kindness. Okay, so in the midst of any questions about any of this before I go on and try to link this together, what these scriptures are. I was trying to give a background as to where we are right now in verse 29. Any questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
One of the other differences between the synagogue and the temple is that sacrifices were made in the temple. And that's where the high priest went, when the high priest went into the place of the Holy of Holies in the temple. In the synagogue, it didn't happen. The sacrifices were not made in the synagogue. It was strictly for the understanding the scriptures. I just wanted to make that observation because that's a major
Thank you, Pastor.
too. Because anybody could go to the synagogue, but anybody could not go into the temple for the Holy of Holies.
Yes, you're correct. Anybody could go into the synagogue. So, look at what happens here. And again, if you're just logging in, we're in Mark chapter 1, verse 29 through 31. Okay? Excuse me. And immediately after they had come out of the synagogue, they came into house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. That is no coincidence. So what I'm looking at here, as much as the synagogue represents religion in its day, as much as it represents what's supposed to be right and godly, the transformation here is taking place in the house of Simon and Andrew. So what am I saying here? The word Simon here, Simon means God has heard. It means he has heard. He is listening. Andrew talks about strength and being brave and being manly. Okay? If you go back to some of the scriptures where we talked about, where we looked at the feminine energy and we talked about balance, this is what this is all about. This is what is what is taking place here. So the ironic thing here is the origin of the name Simon is Greek. Excuse me, the origin of the name Andrew is Greek. the name Simon, because I thought it interesting that the four of them are pointed out here. The Simon, if you will, has three names. Simon is Hebrew. Cephas is Aramaic, and Peter was a Greek name. So what you see in here is this is a spiritual thing that's taking place. There is nothing wrong or bad about the. If I can kind of put this in another way, if you can see the synagogue or your way of worship as this came about because I desire to see truth and I desire to see God. Jesus is about to open your eyes. He's about to show you how to gain balance. That's what this is showing us here. So when you look at these two brothers and you look at their names and this is in their house and what's taking place, this is about to be sort of a transformation or an eye-opening type of experience. And the mother-in-law is a part of that, because remember we talked about the feminine energy, and what it says with her is if you it doesn't matter that it is the mother-in-law. It doesn't matter if it's not the wife. It doesn't matter if it is as long as someone in your household, as long as that feminine energy has a desire to wait on you, as long as that feminine energy has a desire to be a part of this household, as long as that feminine energy has a desire to be one with the Creator, with the Word of God, then so be it. So this is Jesus crossing over those lawful boundaries that says this is right only for the Jews, or this is right only for men and that sort of thing. So this is a kind of a transformation, if you will. So when you look at this, and I'll show you the part of this that we don't always how strong it is, the feminine energy and being in the household, because that's the key. What it is saying, because of the role that she has, she is the feminine energy in the house. She is the one that runs the house. She is the one that makes establishes the rules of the house. And I'll tell you how important that is. We talked all the time about the role of the woman in the house and how the children are influenced by the mother. We even talked once about how the back in slave days, the slaveholders would put fear in the women because the women were the ones who influenced the children. Okay, so how strong this is, and I even went back. I saw something here back in Exodus. I'm looking, and you don't have to turn down. I'm just trying to make a point. Exodus chapter 19, verse 3 says, "And Moses went up to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountain, saying, Thus shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the sons of Israel." The house of Jacob is feminine. He's talking about the women. He's saying, do this and bring balance to them. And the sons of Israel is the masculinity. So he's talking about how important that is, that everybody is inclusive. This is bringing balance, because the women will be the ones that influence those that are inside the house. Is that making sense, or can somebody help me with that? Is it making sense?
So you're saying when you talk about the sons, he's talking about the masculine of the men. But when he gets to talking about the house, he's talking about the females.
Yes.
Of the house.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so it's like the female is the one sets the boundary.
Yes. Yes. The female sets the boundaries for what goes on in the house. She is the one also that influences the children. That if back in these days, women weren't allowed to learn to read, but women used to memorize scripture. She is the one that used to teach the children.
Oh,
she has a influence on what goes on inside the house.
Ron.
Yes, sir.
The African proverb that Kwame Nkrumah used in one of his speeches. And it says, if you want to know the political attitude of a country, look at its women. And the reason is the African proverb reasoned that by saying, because the women are the first educators and the primary educators of the kids. She shapes their beliefs. Now, they don't always stay there, but that's where they start. Look at these women. And that is the reason that the fear during enslavement was directed toward the women. The Catholics going into South America would slaughter men in the presence of the women, and if you did not convert, they would kill your children too. By the third generation, because the females were the ones nurturing the kids and did not want to see them slaughtered, by the third generation, they didn't have to do that anymore. They automatically became Catholics without any struggles by the third generation. Thank you.
Thank you. That sums it up. And that's what I wanted to see is how important she is. And again, think about balance. What Pastor a few minutes ago just finished talking about was wholeness and completeness and being holy, creating space to be filled, creating space so that you can become what you were designed to be. Okay? So you have to have that balance. And what he is saying here is no matter what their intent was, how strong their desire was in the synagogue, they didn't have that balance. It wasn't there. There was no experiencing the Creator. There was no one-on-one intimate relationships is what I'm saying. So much in the same way that we looked at Isaac and Rebekah going into Sarah's tent and experiencing each other, that experience was also with Sarah. Sarah was a great part of that experience. So what I'm saying here, this is an experience that is taking place here, and it's taking place in this house with the Simon's mother-in-law, Jesus and Simon's mother-in-law, and of course Simon and Andrew with it being in their house. So what do you see here? You see, and here is part of my question that I don't see all of it. I see part of it. This is Simon and Andrew's house, and I told you what their names mean. So what it's saying is your love and your desire to see truth and understand truth transcends any boundaries that you may have, transcends any culture that you, or any type of religious rhetoric that you have been bombarded with. So this is, if you will, a submission to their part, on their part. Why do I say submission? Because they asked Jesus to heal her. He didn't just walk up to her. So they recognized who he was. They recognized his authority. They recognized his one with the Creator, which gave them that same type of energy. So this thing that takes place in it, and it says, again, the mother-in-law part intrigues me. That speaks to the same thing as I'm just saying here. It's no coincidence that she's there, because multiple generations, but when you stop and look at it, the way things were, you don't see mention of a wife. You don't see mention of Simon's mother. You see his mother-in-law. So in other words, there is a level of intimacy here. There is a level of caring. There is a level of kindness. There is a level of love. And no matter who this woman is to him, she has showing her love and her balance with him, her I don't know what word I want to use, but her place in this family by being there, by being the woman of the house. By being the woman of the house. So her sickness is not a physical thing. Her sickness is that of religion. That is showing that this transformation is showing that there is no experience with God. There is no life in the synagogue as we speak, only masculinity. So this thing that takes place, because it talks about fever, talks about a fire that's burning up. And just as we said the other day, this thing can go either way. It talks about to kindle something. So in other words, to make it hot, to start a fire. So you can either start a fire to destroy the earth, or you can start a fire to purge what is wrong, to cleanse it. It means to stir something up, to arouse something, to fan a flame. So that can go either way. This is you. If you can see yourself as this house, then the flame that is being fanned right now in all of us can go either way. That choice is yours. And her it says, and immediately he took her by the hand. So she yields her authority. He takes her by the hand. She yields her authority. He raises her up. Now we're talking spiritually here. This is a spiritual thing. He raises her up. So as you see, this is again, as in all of us, a surrendering, the making room for something to be added to you or put in you. That's what you see here. And it says, and she waited on them. Now, to just look at that, the first thing you think is that she became their servant. That's not what that's saying. Yes, wait does mean to anticipate with hope and to watch for something. It also means to get busy, get ready, be active, and be prepared. In other words, I see that something is coming and I am ready for it. I'll give you an example. Back in Genesis chapter 1, I'm going to read something for you. It says, verse 9 says, and God said, let the waters below the heavens be gathered onto one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. The word gathered there is the same word for wait. So the waters knew that they had a purpose. And they knew that if they were there, not to sit there idly and not to sit there and watch the actions of God, but to only wait until such a time as when they were needed. Because that waiting is an anticipation of saying, I see the other side. I trust the other side. I don't see it with my eyes, but I see you. My eyes are on you, and I know that there's a purpose for me. I'm not just sitting here waiting. So this is the feminine energy that I'm talking about. This is the feminine energy, the role that she takes on at this time. And again, this
Ron, if you're talking, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. How much was it? Did I just go mute?
He was on the road.
You tell me I just went mute. It wasn't mute the whole time, was it?
No. Just a little bit.
My God.
Just about 10, maybe.
I don't even know when I hit the thing.
Well,
Sorry about that.
let me help.
Start getting good.
I want to undergird what you're saying about the power and authority of the mother-in-law.
Yes,
It
sir.
comes from a primitive root in Hebrew that means a wall of protection.
Okay.
So, based on what you were saying, is that that wall of protection that rendered by mother-in-law or feminine energy, period, is no different than the wall of protection that a baby is given in the womb. It is no different than a house being feminine with walls of protection. Wherever there are walls of protection, you will find in the Hebrew, the words are feminine when you speak to protection.
Yeah.
So that's, to me, that undergirds what you're offering in terms of the understanding of the massive authority that has been granted feminine energy.
Thank you. That adds to it beautifully. Let me say this, and I'm going to open it up again for questions and comments. Pastor made me remember something. Jesus made her sick. What am I saying? When you desire something, when you desire to see truth and things start happening in your life, and some of it is not always going to be pleasure. Some of it is going to be eye-opening. Some of it is going to be so you can see, not so God can see, but so you can see. Simon Peter, the feminine side of him, this house that he is, this house that we're talking about here that belongs to all of us, had to see this. So you're desiring truth. You're desiring to be in this place, in this position. You sometimes feel feeble. You sometimes become weak. You sometimes question things, but it's only to make you stronger. So this had to happen. The relationship between the Word of God, which is we're calling Jesus here, that relationship, and with those desiring to be free, those desiring to hear truth, that relationship is always one of a unique place of oneness, and as you experience it. But sometimes in that growth, we experience things that may not always be pleasant to us, or at least something that gets our attention. And in my house, it's different than in Pastor's house, in Charles' house, in Kathy's house. But those things that may be unpleasant to us are extremely necessary. So even in this time, in this upheaval in not only America, but in the entire world, we seem sometimes to be bombarded and even overwhelmed by it. It is necessary because you have asked to be human. And because of that, there are things that we see that we will move to a place where we learn to wait, where we learn to be who we are created to be, knowing that this whole thing, this whole experience is for a purpose and not just sitting back idly and letting our emotions get the better of us.
So, Ron, you remember in that verse where God said, I created good and evil?
Yes.
So what keep us out of creating the same thing? You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir. I do understand what you're trying to say, and I'll answer like this and invite Pastor or anybody else to answer it as well. I think anything, as it says in that scripture, evil is created so that you can experience the Creator. So in it, whatever it takes to open your eyes, whatever it takes to help awaken you to who you are, then that takes place. And yeah, I agree with that, Charles. If you are Elohim and Elohim is you, then I agree with that. Pastor, you want to help me with that, please?
Yes.
Let me go ahead and Richard start. Don't we sometimes create our own evil because we are our own Satan?
Yes. We are our own adversary, yes. And we do bring into our lives evilness, unrightness. The way the church defines evilness is foreign to the scriptures. The church only defines evilness as when you do something bad to somebody. However, if you look at the scriptures, especially the Aramaic, that speaks of evilness as being unripened, then it is evil when you do not have an understanding of who you are. Means that you are unripened. You don't have to kill anybody. You don't have to steal anything. You don't have to do anything that is that is against the law in order to be unripened according to the scriptures, and that's where it's important. Now, the idea of unripeness is necessary. If there is no unripeness, then that which is ripened has no responsibilities. The responsibility of the ripe fruit on the tree is to ripen the unripe fruit, to speed up the process. And why do you think that a person can go to church on Sunday and get out at 12 o'clock and hang somebody at 1:30 and go home and eat dinner and go to bed? How can that be? It's because they don't know who they are. How is it that a pastor can be upset because people don't shout or don't say amen? Why is he upset? Because he doesn't know his responsibility. He has become an entertainer, which means that he's evil. He's unripened. Does that make sense to you, Kat?
Yes, thanks.
Charles, does it make sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are there any questions about it? Do you need greater clarity? Because this aspect of what Charles just raised is extremely important to understand. There is absolutely nothing designed to destroy us. Everything is designed to push us to a place where we will seek to understand who we are. And what we have been fed is a lie. Your purpose in this earth is not to be a doctor, is not to be a carpenter. Your purpose in this earth is to ascertain who you are and lead others to the same space. All those vocations that you engage in, they are simply to sustain you and your body while you are in this earth, period. That is not your purpose. Any questions about that? Okay.
Hey, Rep, repeat that again. That last question.
Your job.
Statement.
Your job is not your purpose for being in this earth. Your purpose for being in this earth is to find out that you are Elohim. Learn who you are so you can lead others to that pathway. Okay. And when you lead others to that pathway, you will see that when they find out who they are, their whole attitude shifts, and they become beneficial to the whole of mankind, because at that point, the greater desire is for mankind to become human, which is Elohim having a physical experience or engaged in a physical experience. Is that clear, Charles?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else?
I have a question, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
So was Peter's mother-in-law made whole after she had, after they had, raised her up or whatever? Had she been made whole after that?
Yes. When you say waited, that also speaks to that as well. Waited carries multiple meanings depending on how the word is used in the Hebrew and Aramaic. Hey, Ron, do me a favor.
Yes, sir.
Would you restate the understanding of weight, and then I will speak to the portion of weight that I see. Okay.
Okay. Let me hold on a minute. I got some stuff. I got 1,000 things here, Mark. I don't know why I do that. But I read something for you out of Genesis. I want to read something for you, another example out of Isaiah 40. Another example of weighted is Isaiah 40 and 31. And it says, let those who wait for the Lord will gain new strength. Yet those who wait for the Lord will gain new strength. They will mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not be tired. They will walk and not be weary. And the other one that I read for you which is the same word in Genesis chapter 1, and I'm trying to get back to that, where it talks about the clouds in creation, and let the clouds be gathered. And God said, let the waters below the heavens be gathered into one place. That word gathered also means to wait. So, well, go ahead, Pastor, and talk about what you see there, but it does have multiple meanings. And as I said, it talks about, it does talk about to watch, wait and watch. It talks about to have anticipation, but it also talks about to be active and to know that something is coming. So you are active that means I know what is coming because I see you. I see God. I don't see the thing that I anticipate. I see God. And the thing I anticipate is I don't know, but I see God. Am I making sense? So when I read about the all the struggles that our nation is having, and all the turmoil that people are going through across this country, my weight is I see the Lord. I don't see the solution. The solution is not in the White House. The solution is not in voting or whatever else. The solution is what we're doing right now, and I trust that. And I don't sit back and on my hands crying about it. We continue to study, and we can continue to purge away that means us no good. That's not a part of this journey that we're on.
Okay. When we look at weight, it also speaks. Weight also speaks about to twist something or to bind something together. And in the case of Peter's mother-in-law rather, when the fever left her, she at that point gathered herself or bound herself, or she was bonded with the energy, the essence of Jesus and the purpose for him coming into the earth. When it talks about in the regard where Isaiah's purpose for using weight is not talking about being a servant as much as it's talking about being bound to something. You can see it, but you might not know what. Now, to look at what Isaiah said, he said, mount up with wings as eagles. And we know that he is not talking about literally mount up with wings as eagles. What he is saying is you have a sharp vision. When you wait upon the Lord, when you bind yourself to Yahweh, you have a sharp vision. And the things that you see, that you move toward at a rapid pace, is truth. And when you do that, you won't grow weary in doing it. And he is saying that even if the pace is slower, it's okay. It does not matter. You will still be strong enough. You will still, your desire is still strong enough for you to receive what you are searching for. Example, when we talk about reading the signs of the times, right now, when we talk about the signs of the times, I am waiting. And what am I waiting on? I wait because I'm connected to Yahweh. I'm one with Yahweh. So now a trial takes place. I'm mounted up as an eagle. I see what's happening, and because my vision is sharp, I see it as a sign of the time, a message. And when I see the message in it, I understand it right then, or it may take me a while for the message to be shown to me. However, I do know something is there, even though I don't see it at that moment. All because I have recognized that I am one with Yahweh. And that's the same thing that took place when Jesus healed the mother-in-law. She became one with Yahweh. She gathered herself to him. And the reason I use the word Yahweh, because Isaiah did it, and also the reason I use it is because if you go to the first chapter of Genesis, it talks about Elohim did, Elohim did. If you go to the second chapter of Genesis, it says Yahweh and Elohim, or Yahweh Elohim, where it should be written. So I am saying that if you are one with Elohim, you are also one with Yahweh. It's just a different aspect of the same spiritual entities. Evelyn, talk to me.
Yeah, I hear you.
No, I don't want you to hear me. I want you to understand it.
Well, I'm just processing what you said.
Is it clear? That's my point.
Yeah, you are clear, but just processing.
Okay, because sometimes I think stuff and don't say it. I'll be thinking I said it. Okay. Anyone else? If questions
Really?
come to you after
When Ron was talking about together under the cloud or the cloud, what did that mean?
It depends on the context. What context are you talking about? Is it the cloud when they came across the Red Sea, or is it the cloud when Elijah saw the cloud the size of a fist when he was?
When Ron was reading Genesis, it was Genesis or Isaiah. You're talking about the gathering of the cloud.
Ron,
I'm thinking.
Wait a minute, Charles. He's still on the phone.
I was reading Genesis chapter 1 verse 9 during creation, and he what God said there, and I was just pointing out to you the multiple meanings of that word wait. So I wasn't so much talking about the cloud. I was just using it as an example. But the verse said, "And let the waters below the be gathered into one place, and let the dry land appear," and it was so. But I was just talking about the word gathered there. I was saying, pointing out some of the things that we have gone over and not seen, but what they mean and how it changes the meaning of the verses, and just making a comparison to those verses.
Okay, all right.
And let me say this too, why I said that, and make sure everybody understand what Pastor just said too. But what I just said, if you can picture an apple tree, and it's in the middle of the summer, and you go out there and you pick apples, and you get a basket full of apples, well, you will notice that there are other apples, but you pick the ones that were ripe. But there will come another time that you have to harvest from that tree. So what am I saying? We don't miss anything when we study. We see what is ripened for us at that time. So, all the scripture that we look at, we can say, well, how many times do we look at that? How we've gone over that again, and we're seeing more, and we're seeing more. The fruit becomes ripened as we need it, as we grow. So even with this, and some of the other things that we read, especially the last couple of weeks, we've looked at those before, but they are becoming ripened now, just like the parables are. As we mature, as we grow stronger and grow, our vision changes from the eyes to the eye. The fruit becomes more visible to us, and we can see it better. I hope that makes sense.
It does.
Yes, it do.
Pastor. Okay. Thank you. I was Pastor. Were you done?
Yeah, unless there were questions about it. I see an overall thing about Jesus and the healings, though. All of them tell a different story.
Go ahead.
When you look at the man who said that I see men as trees after Jesus mixed spittle with the dirt, put on his eyes, that was telling us a story. that your search is there, your desire is there, but you can't always see with the clarity, but you don't give up. So then what Jesus did, he did it again, and the man could see clearly. So what he's saying is, your spiritual sight is not clear. In the beginning, you could see it all. Now it's not clear. And if you persevere, it will clear up. When in the case of the lepers, it was, are you going to be made whole by virtue of embracing the spirituality that Jesus came to show us that it was available to us? Or are you going to remain in a religious stupor and fill that space with religion, which is making you even worse? Then when we look at the centurion's daughter, each time someone calls on Jesus to heal, he does not pitch a tent and have a healing ceremony. He does not pitch a tent and collect money for healing. He just does it. In the case of the centurion's daughter, even the white supremacist knows who you are. The Roman centurion came to Jesus, and Jesus knew that they were occupiers, they were brutal, they were murderers, they were pillaging the land, but yet what did he do? Jesus showed them that love covers a multitude of entanglements. He healed. He was going to the house, and the centurion says, "You don't have to. I'm a commander over men." And short, and he just simply said, "You have the authority to do this," and Jesus did it. And what did Jesus say? I have not seen this kind of faith in all of Israel. What Jesus was saying is, one who has no clue as to who he is recognize the authority even though he doesn't believe in what I'm teaching. So all of Jesus' healings tells us a story. So you understand what I'm attempting to say now? I hope.
Yeah, that makes sense. It does.
And if you look at any of the things that he did by way of healing, you will find in that a message. Yet, what all we've done, Smith Wigglesworth, Hagen, all of these charismatic people took the healings and made profit from them. And we were following suit, using healings, healing people, because we felt like that was the right thing. The genuineness of it is seen in the outcome. What am I saying? I have done the same thing without the money part of it. I have called people together or been in gatherings where I simply did healings, and it happened. But it was not a thing where I made profit off it, because that was not it at all. And when I was offered opportunity to be on TBN and refused, I was told with my abilities that you will be a millionaire, and I walked away from that. That's the outcome. I told you that I heard a voice tell me, you've done healing. Now, I'm going to take you back and show you how it works and why. And from that point forward, I have not done that. And now the understanding of why is because there are messages in every one of them that's far deeper than healing an ailment or disease or fever of somebody's body. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
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 Perhaps. Yep.
So to seek somebody out to heal them is not what Jesus did. He didn't go around saying, we're going to have a healing ceremony today. Did he? No, he did. Okay, I'm done, Ron, unless there are questions or comments.
Questions or comments, y'all?
And you wasn't doing it for a show. Like I've seen some people signal people out just to call them, knowing that they already got a condition, and they're signaling them out when they come into the church because they want people to think that I got the power to heal this person. And then when that person goes to the hospital and then they come out the same way, and then to me, I guess what I'm really saying is, I'm just saying what I'm saying, is they do it, some people do it for a show, to make people think that I got all this power, you know.
They do it, Kathy, for the purpose of for showing their superiority to you.
Right.
And what they find out is it doesn't work.
Right. For instance, like, excuse me, remember when I was telling you about the young lady? Had been drinking. She came to came to church that Sunday. Had been drinking, and she was signaled out. And when she was called down front, it was like they was saying, "Come out of a demon in the name of Jesus." And the child, to me, was really being embarrassed and thought that the other preachers was going to join in with them, and it didn't happen.
That is showmanship, and that is the reason when we started in the beginning talking about the difference between healing and the difference and likeness between healing and wholeness. You cannot participate, you cannot embrace, you cannot act like it's okay and still desire and receive the understanding of spiritual things to the extent that it will fill you. That's not going to happen. The voice of our Creator is not found in a commentary by Matthew, whatever his name is. Neither is it found in a footnote in a Bible. The voice of the Creator is from within. And it is not audible. It is experiential. You know what I'm trying to say. It is an experience as opposed to that. So my contention is that the thing that took TBN under was righteous refusal as well as a continuation of milking people for all the money they could get by using the scriptures as a commodity as opposed to an identification as to who we are. I'm done.
A question from Ricky. Why does the voice sound so audible?
The Creator speaks to people in different ways. It may feel audible to you. But I guarantee you, if you hear it audibly, you cannot tell me what that voice sounds like.
And I can't. I knew when I heard the voice, I knew it was the Creator, but I can't. Like the lady that that was healed, I could not. She wanted me to explain what the voice sound like. I told her I cannot explain to her what the voice sound like. I told her it sounds yet so close, but yet so far away. That's about the best way I could explain it to her. I said, I can't explain to you. And she asked me over and over and over for years. I said, I cannot explain to you what it sounds like.
Well, let me tell you why. The reason you couldn't is because the words that are impressed upon us, they feel audible, because that's the way we are accustomed to hearing. It took years for me to understand the difference. And the way I learned that is starting to be still to see if I heard talking or if that was an impression or an experience. When Jesus said, I say what I see my Father say, I perceive what he says. He wasn't talking about seeing with his eyes. He was talking about receiving with his perception. I perceive what a wound says, and I do it. So it's not audible voice sound like the voices that we are using currently. And that is the reason you can't describe what it sounds like. Does that make sense to you, ma'am?
Yes, and I guess because at the time I was here in the house by myself.
Yes.
And it was like quiet and still, but like when I'm in a setting, it's like it's from within. It's like I hear it within me, within my subconscious mind. That makes sense.
It makes sense. However, the words that you perceive that you are hearing are really experiences of your within your soul. Jesus never said, I hear. Everywhere he said, I see. And when you look up the word see or even hear in the scriptures, it talks about to perceive. And to perceive is more of an experience than it is hearing audibly. So what I would ask each of you to consider is when you feel like you are hearing, ask yourself, are you feeling or are you hearing? Because when you understand that is that you are feeling, you are actually experiencing, you're perceiving what the desire of a wound is. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I was working, I would see it. I would see it with my eye. And by the time I get from my job to where I'm going when I leave there, I would see it. I could actually see it in person as to what I was seeing on my job.
Okay.
With my eye.
Anyone else? Any questions or comments? Mr. Ron?
Okay. I hope this has made sense to you. And I hope we can see ourselves in this and kind of relate to it. And I hope it's encouragement. I see, as I mentioned it from the onset, I had probably as many questions about these verses as I do answers. And the end of this is a different type of discussion, I guess, sort of like a supposition, if you will. Suppose that these four men that Jesus, and particularly Peter, the three of them, James and John, suppose they represent a type of balance, a type of focus as to where we are. What do I mean by that? Simon, if you will, because all of this is people seeking God, okay, which is what Jesus' focus was. So is he showing us something here that you're going to have that one, and I'm talking about Peter now, who will struggle. He is sincere, but he will struggle to see himself and to gain understanding. If you look at all the things that Peter did, and he was always first to speak up and to say things, and so he represents that part of us that is going to be the last to see truth, or that last part of you that tries to hold on to what you've always thought was valuable. And you balance that by your James and your John. James and John are the sons of Zebedee, and Zebedee means the Lord is gracious. John talks about God being gracious. And James means to follow, and comes from the same word, the root of what Jacob means, the heel grabber, the supplanter. And I think all of it talks about the journey of the human, the person who is trying to follow truth. And I just, because I'm looking at this, and that was part of my, none of this is coincidental as to why. Because if you look at a lot of what takes place in the Gospels, you see particularly Peter, James, and John with him, and that too is something that caught my attention when I read this. Questions or comments? Does that even make sense?
I think that a lesson within itself would be the understanding of the four names from strictly the Aramaic or the Hebrew. Why do I say that? The reason I say that is because those names speak to personality or character or events or actions. And there is a reason that those four were there. There is a reason that it was Peter's mother-in-law. Because as you said, Peter struggled to the extent that Jesus says, when you are converted, in other words, when you have been purged of religion and truly embrace spirituality, then you strengthen your brothers. Why would he say that? Why would he say that? He said, strengthen your brothers. He did not say convert them. Strengthen them. They were already embracing what Jesus was teaching. Peter was struggling with it between what he had learned at the synagogue and what Jesus was teaching. If you remember, when Jesus was at the I think it was the temple, where he was 12 years old and was answering the questions of those who were reading the scriptures.
Yes, I remember.
Why? So Jesus, when they got upset with Jesus, it was because he was rightly interpreting the scriptures. And Peter was struggling with what the teachers of the synagogues had to say versus what Jesus was saying. The others did not have that struggle. Jesus understood that it was going to take somebody with the strength and intestinal fortitude of Peter, someone who, once they got it, you would not be able to shake them, to lead that group and to strengthen that group and to encourage them to hold on to what they knew the truth to be. So in this particular instance, what I am seeing is introducing Peter in particular to an understanding of the power and presence of feminine energy. And at the same time, bringing healing. And it says, without saying it, that the multitude did not understand the spiritual nature of what Jesus was doing. How do I know that? Because it says that when the sun set, the door was crowded because people were bringing folk to Jesus to be healed. They saw it as a physical thing. Jesus did not turn them away. They brought him to be healed. That gave them a history of the power of what Jesus represented and what Jesus was teaching. And that also showed Peter the power of what Jesus had done in regard to his mother-in-law. It says that they came into the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. And what it says is that they talked with him. They came into the house. Peter had to see as much as possible for him to fully embrace what happened. And if you remember, Peter had not totally embraced the teachings of Jesus even at the crucifixion. It was at a moment of the resurrection, not the physical resurrection as it was, but at the moment that truth was resurrected in Peter. When Peter experienced that, he became a formidable force for what Jesus taught, to the extent that he challenged anyone, especially Paul, when it came to what Jesus taught. There is not coincidental that they sent Paul to Rome Peter. It's not coincidental. In other words, he sent him to the people, his folk. And don't mess us up. Don't mess up the people who Jesus came to. Am I making sense to you?
Yes, you are.
So this thing is more about the leadership qualities of Peter having to come from a place of struggle wherein the others had already embraced it. Not to the extent that they could do stuff as Jesus did it, but to the extent that they believed what Jesus was talking about. Peter was always the one who spoke out with his struggles, and that's why he said strengthen them. Is that clear? Does it make sense? Comments, questions?
Hey, Reb, it's almost like this person go to school to learn religion, and this person didn't go to school, but he understood what God was telling him inside. And he spoke to the man that went to the school the way God wanted to be. He didn't understand it. He was always questioning the old man about it. But when the old man kept talking to him, letting him see it for real, the young man was still struggling with the school. But when he started seeing it for real, it was different from what he got taught in school and what he see for real. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes. Peter was struggling with what he learned at the synagogue and what he learned from Jesus. The synagogue being
right.
And he struggled because of what was put in him, just as there are people who are struggling today with that. And that struggle leads to those who put themselves in a position of teaching others. You can call it preaching. I don't care what you call it. It's teaching. Teaching others. And if they don't teach them right, beaten with many stripes does not refer to a physical beating. Those stripes are being experienced now. And they have been brought to the light in terms of these experiences from the beginning of the COVID in this land. The struggles that they are having to hold on to people who have seen that something is not right with this. The hardest people to change are the teachers, the preachers. That's why Jesus chose his band of 12 from those who were not the scribes and the Pharisees in the synagogue. Thank you. I'm done, Ron.
Okay. How we doing, y'all? Questions, comments?
Oh, why only 12?
12 speaks to government authority. It's more about the number, what the number means, than it is about the number of people. The number 12 speaks to authority. And 2 and 1 is 3, or 1 and 2 is 3 when you look at 12. 1 and 2 is 3. So it speaks to spiritual authority. And when Judas was separated from the 12 by virtue of death, and Matthias was added, you never hear anything else about Matthias. The reason being is because when Judas was separated by death, that was a message to us. And that message to us is, you cannot complete the spiritual authority by virtue of choosing who you want. Even if you cast lots, it doesn't matter. They were chosen by the one who brought the teachings to the earth. And we do not have a right to amend spiritual authority, neither do we have a right to attempt to subvert spiritual authority. So that's why 12. That's why you have 12 tribes. That's why you have the number 12 being prevalent in so many different places in the scriptures. Jesus, 12 years old, reading the scriptures in the temple. Spiritual authority. Does that help you?
Yes, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Brother Richard, yes. Why? You said Matthew he was not chosen by Jesus.
So
he was chosen by the people.
No, I say Matthias.
Yeah,
Matthias.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Huh?
Matthias was chosen by the 11 disciples.
Okay, so that wasn't Jesus choosing.
That's why you don't hear nothing about it.
Okay, just trying to get that understanding. I just hadn't really thought about it until you just said that.
Yes, ma'am. That was them making that choice. And that is the reason that you don't hear anything else about it. I'll give you a classic example of that. I have never ordained a deacon in my life. I never felt it. Even when I was in traditional ministry, it was something about that I did not feel. I did not feel that I should do that. I felt like everybody was servants. Men have chosen deacons based upon what they say a deacon should be, not the scriptures. And that's true. There is so much conflict in the church. And the deacons are the authorities there, whether they want to admit it or not. That was never to be. It only came into being because they did the same thing with the deacons as the 11 did with choosing Matthias. Okay?
Okay.
Any other questions, Miss Shirley?
No, that's it.
Okay, babe. Any questions or comments from anyone else? I hope this is clear to you.
Yes, it is to me.
Okay. Ron?
Okay. If there are no questions or comments, I'm done too. And again, I hope it all made sense.
It does. And thank you.
No, thank you. I especially appreciate the summation of the healing stuff. All of it being lessons or messages. Yeah. Oh, that's all I have. If nobody has any questions or comments. Okay. Well, thank you. Again, if you have questions, please bring them with you Saturday, or text someone. Maybe we'll have them for Saturday. And everybody have a great week and much love to you.
Question. Will we meet Monday next week, Reverend Richard?
Yeah.
It's at the week of Christmas.
I'm just talking and I'm muted. Ron must have rubbed off.
No, you laughed at me.
Yes, we will meet. And please let me help you understand the reason. We are engaged in a critical time. And I have been shown, and I believe I have seen, that it is imperative for us to continue this journey of understanding and reading the signs of the times and infusing into the earth's atmosphere truth and making sure that righteousness prevails. By the time that, well, prior to Biden's 4 years being up, this country is going to be totally different than what you are experiencing now and have experienced in the past. Biden is a cross between someone who wants to do right and someone who wants to keep the policies of racism and discrimination in place. He's an older white man who only apologized to a black woman who he ridiculed during Clarence Thomas's confirmation hearing. He only apologized to her the day before he announced to be president. If that is sincere, I don't think so. So what I'm saying is this. If this country was, if he was serious about change, the first thing that he would have done was pushed the voters' right bill. He did not do that and still isn't doing it. He wanted to make a name for himself and not challenge the racist tactics that are being employed in this country right now. It's imperative that we stay on the wall because I know that none of you want the blood to be on your hands because you did not be a faithful watchman and everything changes for the worse as opposed to for the betterment of humanity. I don't see us not being together. I don't see that. It's imperative that we do this. I have been asked by many to take a break. I have. I've done my best to do it, but I've made my way back to the phone. And the only time I didn't is when I couldn't. So I say all of that to say this. Christmas is a great time. It really is. Not because of Jesus, but because it grants you a longer period to experience the presence of your family, and it is an opportunity to be festive. However, there are some things that's far more important than our holidays. And the periods that we spend teaching and making every effort to bring understanding to this earth will not mitigate the time that we are able to spend with our families. That makes sense to you? All of you? Do you understand what I'm making an effort to explain?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I do understand that some of you won't be on. It's okay. It's okay. But those who are on, we're grateful. So, let me add this. one of the other reasons it is imperative for us to stay on the wall is because of this Omicron virus. They don't know what it will do and what it won't do. And we cannot run the risk of giving anything that with that much being unknown and not understood about it an opportunity to ravage people who are already suffering. Thank you.
Any other comments, guys? Hope you have an awesome week. Look forward to seeing you Saturday, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Y'all have a good evening,
Thank
too.
you.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.